Let's have a mystical conversation, the kind where we lose ourselves in the wonders of divine mysteries, share dreams from the other side, intuitive nudgings, and soul mission yearnings. I'm Sue Frederick, your host for today's mystical conversation. I'm the author of 8 books, including Bridges to Heaven, True Stories of Loved Ones on the Other Side, and Your Divine Lens. I love helping people, especially grieving people, realize that we all have a connection to the divine realms. And I'm also an ordained unity minister. So I've spent a lifetime studying spirituality and consciousness. And I love bringing that to the conversation about grief and loss. So I'm very excited today because we have the most wonderful guest. Her name is Lisa Hudson, and she is very amazing by herself. She's the president of Black Sun Productions, a developer of sports and lifestyle mobile apps and video games that she started with her husband in 1998. And they've done amazing history of video games. But what's even more amazing about her is she's a co-founder and president of an executive director of Boarding for Breast Cancer, a 501 nonprofit foundation dedicated to providing breast cancer education, prevention, and survivor support for young people. And she was a women's pro beach volleyball champion way back in the day, 1988 to 93. So she's an amazing soul. But the real amazing soul of this conversation is her beautiful son, Shane, who I was honored to meet in spirit when I worked with Lisa. And let me just quickly read his story. On a Friday night in January of 2020, our son Shane experimented with a large amount of mushrooms alone in our home while we were sleeping. Shane woke us up at 12:30 a.m. in an altered hallucinogenic state and tried to articulate the euphoric joy and wonderment he was experiencing. He could not respond to my questions, but over and over he iterated that he was talking to God, that he now understood the meaning of life, and it was all about love and joy. Concerned about his condition, my husband and I agreed that we needed to take him to the ER. As we were getting ready to go, Shane jumped up and ran down our stairs and off of our deck with his arms outstretched, shouting, "I got this," like he was reaching out to catch a fly ball. He died in his father's arms while I was calling 911. Shane is such a powerful presence that you're going to probably feel him during this conversation. So I'm going to put his photo up just quickly because this is a kid that has the angelic energy that we talk about so much here. He was a 7-path Capricorn. And the way I look at this is that the 7th path is an angelic path, not meant to stay here long, often, not always, but often. And look at that face. I mean, if you can see this video, he was the pure epitome of God love, God consciousness, and joy. And on that note, I want to say hello to Lisa.
Hi, Sue. Thank you for having me.
It's a joy to talk to you, sweetheart. So what I want to ask is, you're raising this amazing child who actually, dies in the arms of God consciousness, full of joy. Tell me the Shane story. What was it like to be his mom? And what is it like now to connect in spirit?
Um, you know, from the time he arrived on this earthly planet, he uh, was so full of joy and so full of light. He was just this brilliant ball of love that lit up every room and lit up every face that he was exposed to. Um, One of my early stories of Shane is when he was in preschool, when he was 3 years old. The teachers called me after school and said, Lisa, we really need to talk to you about Shane screaming. he screams all day long, and it really disrupts the other kids. And I would say, well, what's he screaming about? Is he, is he in pain? Is he angry? And they said, no, he screams with joy and laughter.
Oh God.
And it disrupts everybody because every time he gets excited, he screams with joy and laughter. And
Oh my
so
God.
I'm like, well, I don't know what I can do about that.
I have
But,
goosebumps.
but being his mom as my only birth child was just the most incredible experience.
Mhm,
He was my mini me.
mhm.
He he loved parties, he loved friends, he had a vast amount of friends, more than I ever knew possible existed until his transition.
Yeah.
And we spent so much time together. My husband and I have our development studio out of our house,
Mhm,
and so we were able to be with him pretty much 24/7.
mhm.
And when I look back at our 16 years with him, there is there's no regrets. You
Yeah,
always want time, more time,
right,
of course.
right.
But we spent every day with him and did so many adventures and so many travels. And, we didn't work out of the house. So we didn't have that guilt of we didn't get the time with him.
Yeah, and didn't you tell me, Lisa, that, sometimes you would take him aside and say, "Shane, you gotta stop telling everybody that you love them."
Yes, he was a huge I love you constantly, every single, several times a day. I love you, mom. I love you, dad. And then as he got, into elementary school, he started saying it to all of his friends. And I would say, and then always he had a vast amount of online friends as well too. And it was always, I love you, I love you, I love you. And I would hear it about 20 times a day. And I'm like, Shane, okay, you can't just throw that name or that word around lightly. He's like, Mom, you don't understand. I love everybody. I
Oh.
say it because I love them.
So
And
to all the
so,
parents out there listening, I'm sure you recognize part of your own child in this story, the child who never really landed in this physical world and bought into the rules of being human. And even in his crossing, he was embracing God at the age of 16. And when did you, Lisa, first feel his presence come through to you after his crossing?
oh gosh, right away. I mean, to have that experience of having him in my arms, and have to say he took this large dose of mushrooms that is called the God's dose,
Oh,
which is 10 grams of mushrooms, and
wow.
we later discovered that he researched it online and looked it up.
So he was seeking God.
He was seeking God, and he was seeking, I think from his 16-year-old brain, he was like, I'm going to take the biggest God dose and tell all my friends all about it. And which is what he wanted to do. He wanted to get that experience and be able to communicate. And when you Google God's dose, you get a
Mhm.
various degree of like, it changed, it altered my path, it expanded my consciousness, it
Right.
brought me a depth of understanding that I'm moving forward in my life. That coupled with it put me in the hospital for 3 days. I don't remember it. I mean, so it was combined with like fearful stories and stories of enlightenment that I think he read, and he was really looking for that enlightened sort of
Yes,
state.
this anybody who follows my numerology, 7 is a path of seeking God. It really is. It's a path of seeking spiritual enlightenment. And for him to be such a pure and highly evolved soul that at the age of 16, when most kids only care about maybe their next girlfriend or something like that, he's at home seeking God through mushrooms. I love that so much. And I have to say that when I did a session with you, Shane is just like, I even feel him now. And one of the ways he showed up for me in our session was he wanted to make sure I understood he's not a child. And so he showed me as a grown image that, and told me he was of the icon of Saint Francis of Assisi. And you and I talked about that. Like, he didn't grow up Catholic, so he didn't really know in his conscious life what that was about. But to those of you like me who grew up Catholic, St. Francis grew up in a wealthy family, gave away all of his belongings, and said, I'm going to devote my life to God, and lived amongst the forest and the animals. And when Shane showed me that, I was like, yes, like that's his spirit, just totally not of this world.
Yeah, and in hindsight, you look back at all of this, and Shane always was going 110 miles an hour. His nickname was Bottle Rocket, and he was just an explosion of energy and love all the time. And when I look back at it, I can really see how he was just milking every opportunity he possibly could to experience this earthly plane.
Would you share a dream or a vision or an experience of connecting to Shane?
Yes, I will. The first thing I did the day after Shane transitioned was to talk to a medium, and my girlfriend's sister-in-law was just starting to practice, and he came through to her right away, and she said, I'm seeing this vision of Shane holding the hand of a little girl with red hair. And my husband and my stepson, who were in the room with me listening, kind of both went like this, and she goes, and she's so excited that he's there with her. And that was Kira, holding Shane's hand. And
But tell everybody who Kira was.
Kira is my husband's 3-year-old daughter who transitioned right before I met him, working on a video game project together, of cancer at the age of 3. And her brother Brendan was 5 at the time. And so I met Jack 3 months after Kira transitioned, and we started working on this project together, a snowboard video game.
And as we figured out during your session, Kira was of the 7 path exactly the same as Shane. The two of you had godchildren. And I totally believe that if a soul chooses the path of illness, especially a child, that's a highly evolved soul who came to wake us all up.
Most definitely. And for me, trying to support my husband in his grief of Kira, and just trying to support his healing journey, it was so awakening for me and him when Shane transitioned as well. And for my husband to lose 2 children who transitioned in his arms is so tragic and so painful and heartbreaking. And I do look at him and I say, to transition in your loved one's arms, going out in love, being held in love is such a gift.
Yeah.
Even though it is so painful.
And the other amazing thing, you and Jack are both on the 11 master soul journeys. And for 2 parents to be both 11 master souls and bring in 2 7-path God-seeking children who exit early, that's quite a soul posse that you're part of, Lisa.
Yeah, it's it's all starting to make sense to me now. Mm-hmm. as I've learned more on my spiritual path about our soul's journey, and really what life is like after life.
And you told me you grew up with a very metaphysically aware mom, right? So you've always been aware that we are more than physical beings, that spirit and consciousness survives death. And do you want to share any of that?
Yeah, my mom was definitely on a metaphysical path through her life. She lost her mother at 16, and then at that age, like so many, married very early, was divorced by the age of 24 with 3 children, and then really dedicated herself. And I think her mission at the time was that she wanted to learn everything she possibly could in this lifetime so she didn't have to come back. That was what she always said. But we did est in the 70s. I don't know if you remember
Yes,
that.
that is so
Yep.
great. How old were you
I
when you
was
did est?
12 years old
12
and
years
and
old.
so bitter to be sitting inside as opposed to on the beach for a weekend eating soggy tuna fish sandwiches, and just to realize that the big thing takeaway was it is what it is, right? I'm like, okay, okay, can you just tell me that?
Oh, that's great.
But every birthday was a crystal, it was a medium reading, astrology, numerology, color therapy, you name
Mhm,
it. We were
mhm,
Bach flowers. We had the whole gamut growing up.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I always loved it and appreciated it so much. I think I mentioned to you that my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer when she was 50, turned 50, was given a year and a half to live. She made it 10 years as her cancer progressed all throughout her, but she kept fighting. And we lived every year like it was her last year. So we went to
mhm,
Hawaii 5 times, and I spent so much time with her that when it came time for her, it metastasized to her liver. I was pregnant with Shane.
mhm.
She worked with me with a medium, a teacher to learn how to connect with her in spirit after she was gone. And that was kind of a mind. I'm like, okay, let's figure this out. And the day after she transitioned, I connected right into her and she was right there. And I was
Oh,
seeing her and I was hearing her and I was saying, we miss you so much. Do you miss us? And she said, no, you're here with me right now. That's how
right.
we're communicating, as we're communicating at a soul level. And everyone I've ever loved for all my lifetimes is here.
Yeah.
Um, and I had the medium say, Lisa, your mom has a piece with you with her when she transitioned. And that's, you guys have this crazy soul connection,
Yeah.
which is the same connection I have with Shane.
Right.
And I think so much of it was because I thought at the time, because he was in utero when I was doing, and then learning more through your work, Sue, and that Shane is, a level 7 and I'm at a level 11, which is all kind of new learnings for me.
Mhm.
It all starts making a lot more sense.
And I want you to talk, I don't know if you've noticed, but all during this interview, there's a rainbow prism of light on your face. It's now moved to your hair. I want you to talk about the lights. I know you told me a story of Shane showing his presence through these lights or something when he crossed.
Yeah, I go back to that day that Shane, that I was talking to the medium the day after Shane transitioned, and she talked about, she said, she goes, how she works is that spirit shows her an object, and then there's meaning that is revealed. So the first thing she goes, he's showing me a baseball bat. Did Shane play baseball? And I'm like, no, he was, so, action sports, extreme sports, skateboarding, snowboarding, never really a team sport. And she's like, oh, he's saying that it was swinging for the fences and that he was going out to catch a ball. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I saw him leap off of our deck 10 feet behind him with his arms stretched out saying, I've got this, I've got this. And that, made that, I'm like, oh gosh, that made sense. And then of course she said, and your mom was right there to catch him. And Kira was right there, to take his hand. The other thing she said is that, he's showing a monkey bar set and that you're thinking that he let go of the monkey bars and fell to the ground. And she said he's showing himself standing on top of the monkey bars with his arms stretched up saying, no, I'm here, I'm home. And this is where I'm supposed to be. I didn't lose my grip. I have ascended to where
Yeah.
I am. And the other thing she said was that Shane, talked about how close of a connection, a soul connection, Shane and I have, and that there's rainbows over my head. And I'm like, okay, yeah, rainbows are red. Rainbows my sign with Shane. There's rainbows over there's rainbows over your head. And I'm like, okay. And then she goes, no, look at the screen. There's rainbows over your head. And there's certain light that comes in from our room here that projects rainbows. So that's probably what you see going
Yeah,
around here.
you can see it.
Yeah. And the last thing she talked about was she said, Shane's pointing to this golden tower that goes on to eternity. And it's the most gorgeous. She goes, I can't even have words to describe it because it's not of this physical world. But Shane's pointing to it and saying that this is the communication tower. And
Oh.
that this is how Shane's going to communicate with you, is that there's this new technology that he's creating that is going to
Oh,
help you
yeah.
connect. And so back to the lights that I was describing is, my husband being a video game designer and programmer, we were really struggling with Shane, as I'm sure most parents do, trying to take away their phones and make sure that
Mhm.
they get their sleep. And so we were taking all of Shane's electronics out of his room at night, and he was complaining about not being able to sleep. And so Jack took a string of LED lights, the lights that most kids run around the ceilings of their room,
Mhm.
and he created this little mini game called Surfers versus Zombies. And the surfers were blue and purple, and the zombies are red. And then they fight, and sometimes the surfers lose and they turn red, or sometimes the surfers win and the red dots, the zombies turn blue.
Mhm.
Um, and there's rainbows that go around the lights that shoot through, and they heal the zombies to surfers. And there's also meteors that go through, these red meteors that turn the surfers to zombies. And so after Shane transitioned shortly thereafter, I think it was the second night, we were lying in Shane's room and we're looking up and watching, the
Mhm.
game play out, and all of a sudden rainbows are going around and around and around, like
Oh.
10 rainbows in a row.
Mhm.
And I'm like, Jack, like, I've never seen this many rainbows. And he's like, Lisa, I didn't program that, you
Oh.
know, and that is Shane, manipulating our
Yes.
lights and coming through to communicate with us that way.
Do you still
And
have those lights up?
oh yeah, we have those we have those lights up in his room. We have them on our deck. My husband has been working on this project now to help other parents connect with their children in spirit and their loved ones. And he's trying to fine tune the technology, but I'm sure one of Shane's flashing lights on us all the time. It's not just with the rainbows and those lights, but in our
Yeah.
kitchen. And when we say something that he likes, the lights will pop and crack, and just, it's really amazing. And as we've learned more, and he's, worked with or studied Gary Schwartz and Mark Patitnik,
Right.
what they're doing, and the electromagnetic soul,
Yeah.
that I'm spacing on his name.
Hey,
um
Mark Anthony?
yes, Mark Anthony talks
Yes.
about,
Yeah. Because
all
you
of
and I met, Lisa, at the Helping Parents Heal conference in August when Gary Schwartz, Mark Anthony, all these amazing scientists were talking about how consciousness can be measured. And yes, it continues beyond death of the physical. I remember you came up to me after my numerology class, and I just instantly looked at you and said, "Your sparkly son, Shane," because I could feel him and see him and just feel the light and the love from him. But so your husband is working on this technology. I love that so much.
Yes, and it's really, he's trying to get it also to where, understanding that it's kind of an installation that you have to do in your home
Hmm.
or on your deck or wherever you want these lights, and that you can't take it with you. So he's working on a portable, it's almost like a Tamagotchi,
Yeah.
where you can hold something in your hand that you can take with you, and there's lights in there, and it can respond to your energy and your voice, and be able to just interact with you and give you
Well, Shane,
a tool.
Shane and your husband are going to create this amazing tool for communicating with our departed. So Shane's got this.
That's what he keeps telling us.
So, Lisa, what would you say to a mom, another mom, or another dad who's recently lost a child? What would you say to them to give them hope on their journey?
Uh, you know, um, I've done so much work myself these past 2 years, 2.5 years, almost three. And I had a really strong metaphysical base to start with. So
Mhm.
it was easier for me to believe and trust that the signs and the voices and everything that Shane was, trying to hit us with all from every angle is him. And so And I have had other moms that say, I don't see any signs at all. I'm I keep looking. And then she's like, and then this man came up on my doorstep and knocked on the door, and he delivered this to me. And and I'm like, the sign. So the
Right.
signs, the signs are there.
Yes.
And when you're trying the hardest to try and see them, or you're really trying to put a lot of energy into it, of like, the barrier of I don't believe and I'm not getting
Right.
it, is just to try and open your heart
That's it.
and your mind,
Yeah.
and understand that that voice isn't just the voice in your head. It's the
Yes.
voice of your loved one that's screaming, shouting, "This is
I
me."
know.
And
You
our
know,
physical mind, our human mind just says, "Oh, no, no, that
right.
can't be them. That's just my voice telling me what I want to hear."
Well, yesterday I interviewed Joe McQuillan, the author of I'm Not Done Yet, We're Not Done Yet, Pop. And he said the same thing. He said, I just tell parents who tell me, if they say, I haven't had any signs from my child, I ask them, and what work have you done on yourself? He said, if you're not willing to quiet your mind in some form, whether it's exercise, meditation, prayer, if you're not willing to open your heart and say, I trust that whatever I'm receiving comes from the divine realms, comes from my departed beloved, then you're blocking it, because it's as easy as breathing. And the monkey mind, the human left brain logic mind, will always go, well, that's a coincidence. You made that up, blah, 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 blah. And yet, once you go, okay, thank you, monkey mind, but my heart and my soul are going to trust this, and start allowing those signs to uplift you, you live in a different world then. You live in a world of constant miracles, constant signs, constant connection to the divine. And I know at my old age, I've had to learn to get out of my cynical mind and really embrace totally this divine world. And once we do that, this life on earth is completely different.
Yeah, I so agree with that. The concept for me, who is always, and I look back at how I approached, supporting Jack in his grief. And it was always just me, just blowing sunshine and creating the party and bringing in the joy and the happiness, which was very much what Shane was like as well too.
Mhm.
And then the big fear with losing Shane, and I don't want to say losing Shane, but when Shane transitioned, my big fear was I was going to go to a place of darkness and not be able to get out of it.
Oh,
And my fear of getting stuck in pain, when my whole life, and my mom was very much a create your own reality.
yes.
You are creating your reality. What you put out there is what's going to manifest. And when you have something tragic like this happen, you sit there and say, and my mom was saying with cancer, like, well, how could I possibly create this in my reality? How could I possibly? And for Jack, who was so apprehensive about having another child after
Yeah.
losing Kira, and the pain and trauma to him and to Brendan, he just said, I don't know if I could do this again.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I am magic. Nothing bad is ever going to happen. Like, come on, you're with me, and then to really take a look at my soul's path and say, this is part of my journey. And I look
Yeah.
back and I said, okay, I had 55 amazing years with my son. And now it's time for me to do additional work and
And
to,
that's so well said, Lisa, because I think, to me, the greatest myth here on earth is that we're supposed to have this completely happy, joy-filled, pain-free life. That's what we have in the divine realms. That's our divine essence that we come from and return to. But here on earth, it's school. Like, if you're an evolved soul, you don't drop into planet Earth to have a party. You drop in to grow and expand and have your heart broken wide open, and to keep going, to keep putting one foot in front of the other, asking, what is my soul learning here? What is my soul's lesson? How can I move through this with love, with grace, with courage? And once we can take that stand, even losing children becomes okay, we can move through it. It's going to hurt like heck. We're going to cry our eyes out every day, but we're going to also be seeking a higher meaning.
Most definitely. And, for me, at this stage of my healing, which I know is going to happen for the rest of my lifetime, but, um, I've kind of shifted from this curse to this gift.
Yes.
And the more I've studied about, the soul's path and the journey and the pacts that we make with all of our loved ones coming in and the choices that we make coming
Right.
into this lifetime to have these experiences, I've really seen this as this is a gift,
Yeah.
versus a curse. And so
And also that you're a highly evolved soul, and so is your husband. And you two agreed to the hardest possible lessons and losses of a lifetime, because together you wanted to be able to rise up to, like, one of the things Shane told me was that in the divine realms now he's considered a master teacher, part of the council of elders, and you two are moving through this lifetime so that also when your life is over, your spirit guides, your loved ones are saying, well done, you two. At every moment when you hit pain and loss and disappointment, you sought the higher answer of love and grace and understanding. Well done. And you and Shane and your husband will be, and Kira will all be counseling and helping people from the divine realms. And when I cross over, you'll probably be helping me process my life plan.
Yeah, but like Joe said, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of classes. Helping parents heal has been so instrumental for me in my healing journey. I'd struggled with a couple other online groups. It was COVID, so we couldn't gather in person, and to find a group of like-minded people that had incredible access to mediums like yourself and healers, and it's just been, it's really it took me from like preschool to like college really
Right.
pretty quickly with all of the information, and just keep going and just keep learning and reaching for
Yeah, and that's
answers.
a shout out to any other grieving parents who might be listening. We say this all the time, but go to helpingparentsheal.org and you will find videos, you'll find find mediums doing readings. You'll find a library resource of things you can pursue to try to understand death and loss and where your beloved child is and how to communicate with them.
Definitely. And I would add in, the other thing, when we talk about like mystical experiences, I had my first sound bath last summer with this amazing sound healer, and it was, Shane was right there. And from the moment the first bowl was played, and I don't know if everyone knows what sound bath, it was sound healing, a sound bath. They use all these different crystal vibrational
Yeah.
bowls to create this symphony, this concert of frequency, of
Mhm.
this beautiful, of these beautiful tones. And so, Shane was right there and was so pleased that I was just going to be sitting one place and being able to dedicate that amount of time, like an hour of time to him. But with every bowl, I mean, he took me what through heaven looked like and where he is and these beautiful waterfalls and colors and nature. And then with every instrument that she'd bring in, he would bring in another loved one. He'd bring in my mom, he'd bring in my nanny, my grandmother, and all the while saying like, hey, I'm orchestrating this. Like, I'm going to bring him in, and then we change the tune and we go someplace else, but I'm like guiding you through this journey. And yeah, that was 6 months after Shane transitioned, and it was such an
Oh,
incredible thing. And then last year for Shane's birthday, I brought the sound healer into Shane's engineer class at school, and I had 30 of his friends come and experience sound healing for the first time. She also does it on Zoom. So my intention was that now that they're all at college this year, that for his birthday we'll do a virtual sound healing, and that Shane will be able to reach, through all of the
Oh.
sound to all of his friends that
And
way.
Lisa, you're so enlightened. You've already figured out only 2 years into this grief journey that you're here to use your pain and your enlightened ideas and awareness to help others. And you're already reaching out and doing that and beginning to really kick your life and your work up to that level of really helping grieving people go, hey, I need to do some work. I need to pursue this. I need to study that. And you're just handing it to them going, here, try this.
And
And
not
that
everything resonates with everybody, but that would be my thing, is just is to find something, I think like helping parents heal says, take what
take what
resonates with
works.
you
That's right.
and leave the rest, aside.
That's
And
exactly right. And everybody has certain things. Like for me, when Paul died in 1979, numerology appeared on my lap. And that was my gateway to the divine, to understanding what our soul agreements are and why we come here, why we go through pain. And that numerology I've grown with it and taught it and worked with it now for really since 1980, And so the numbers for me are this sacred gateway to understanding our soul's journey. And some people can't get the numbers at all. It doesn't make any sense to them. So it's whatever opens your heart and gives you that aha, there's more to life than this physical. That's what you need to pursue. And that's what your departed loved one wants to help you pursue. So that, I always think of it as they're all around us. And when we're locked down into our stubbornness, our cynicism, our negativity, they're just going, oh my God, like, I'm right here, Mom. I'm right here, And we can take as long as we want being cynical or stubborn or negative. It's okay. But when we have that moment, it could be at the end of our life, when we finally open the heart and embrace a bigger picture, those souls are right there going, yeah, we got you, babe. We love you. And we're never really alone here. And that's the best thing to understand.
yeah, and all those synchronicities of like, oh, I'm just lucky, or
No
no.
such thing.
Shane has always given me the best parking spot ever. Creating beautiful days when it's supposed to be raining,
Yep.
or rainbows,
Yep.
when we have, storms that come through.
Yep.
And yeah, and then the other thing with Shane is just the music, right? And
Yes.
they talk about his song is Dancing in the Moonlight. That's my husband's like, it's just playing in Home Depot in the park and every time I get in the car. And
So
Shane
good.
has this 48-hour playlist that somehow he amassed in his short time here. And it's amazing. We just put it on random and he just delivers over and over again, like the right song at the right time, the right message that really makes our heart
Yeah.
just feel warm and full and big.
Well, I just want to say, Lisa, it's an honor to connect to you. You are so amazing. And it's just, I just want every grieving person, every grieving parent to understand, it's not the end of your world when your loved one crosses. It's the beginning of your spiritual journey. It really is. If you're strong enough that you've signed up for a grief heartbreak, especially of a child, it means you're an old soul and you intended to learn the greatest lesson of love and courage and open-heartedness from this. And so on that note, I just want to thank you so much. And if anybody wants more information about Lisa, how do they find you?
Oh gosh. You can find me on Instagram at LA Hudson, and I do a Sundays with Shane. I'm going to make my profile public now because
Oh,
I think,
good.
yeah. So
Sundays with Shane. I love
Sundays with
that.
Shane. Shane comes through me every Sunday and we put up a picture or a video and he tells me what he wants to talk about or what I want to talk about or the message he wants to give. And then I'm also on Facebook as well too, but Instagram's probably easier to find at LA Hudson.
All right, everybody. So you know how to have Sundays with Shane with Lisa. And if you want more information about my work, I'm Sue Frederick, and my website is suefrederick.com. And I have many books out. They're all on Amazon. And I do regular intuitive numerology sessions like I've done with Lisa. And I also do soul regression sessions where I take you back to your past lifetimes to understand those old soul agreements and what you've agreed to and learned from in past lives and how that might be influencing your life today. So on that note, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy, Lisa.
Thank you, Sue. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
seeing you again.
Thank you.